Alt 92.3.
All right, it's Bryce from Alt 92.3. We're here with Yannis from Foals. Thanks for coming, man.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, dude, we're psyched. I'm going to go Zane low on you for a minute because I know he always does this.
Yeah.
But he's psyched. Heard the record. It's incredible.
Yeah.
But sincerely, it's amazing. Everything not saved will be lost. Everything not saved.
Yeah, you got it.
Got
you
right.
got it. Yeah.
Love the title, by the way.
Thanks.
Was that something that you guys had up in the studio from early on, like maybe on a wall, or is it something that sort of came together at the end to define it?
I came across it before we were making the record, and I jotted it down in my notepad, and I just liked it. I liked the fact, so it came from a Nintendo.
I was going to say, I figured.
Yeah. So I liked the fact that it was on the surface super kind of boring in a way and simple, and then the more, it would come back around in my mind, and the more I thought about it, I was like, it's kind of there's some depth to it, and then. So it just kind of was in my mind, and then when we were trying to pick titles, it was the one that felt like it summed up a lot of the mood of the album.
Yeah, it seems like there's like these levels of the literal, the Nintendo meaning. There's an idea of impermanence that sort of just exists in there, and also I think I read, and correct me if I'm wrong, that there's some ideas about the environment on this record, and if you literally conservationalist,
Yeah, absolutely,
it's going to be lost.
Yeah, totally. That's kind of why I was attracted to it, because it works on different levels, and yeah, you're totally right. There's themes of conservation of the environment, of technology, of even in terms of the way that we made the record, we really tried to complete everything, because in the past we had felt a sense of regret by some of the songs fell by the wayside and they wouldn't ever be finished. So it was like we need to have a sense of purpose in making the record, and it just felt like it neatly summed everything up.
So would you say that you recorded more for this than usual, or you just happened to finish all of these songs instead? It sounds like you're saying. Yeah,
I think there was more completion, and there was probably a bit more material. So normally we'd go in, we would normally whittle more ideas down before we went into the studio, but we approached this whole record differently from the outset. So in terms of not using a producer, we didn't go to Oxford, we didn't really write in a live room very much. Everything was in front of a desk with speakers. It was much more of a studio record, so we had the ability to flesh more ideas out, and we had more time as well. So yeah.
Nice. And then another theme of the record I read about. Actually, you know what? Why don't you give us your broad overview before I break down all these things that I've read? If you could give us like a general introduction.
Okay. So for one thing, the record is coming in two parts. So album one is part one. It's 10 songs. It's like a full-length record. I mean, it is a full-length record. We spent a lot of time sequencing each record so they have their own distinctive character, and they have their own... They exist in a similar world. They orbit around the same things, but they have differences. Thematically, in terms of the lyrics, there is a kind of backdrop of confusion and anxiety that's meant to reflect the times that we're living in. There are these themes of ephemerality, or that things are at stake. There's something perilous happening at the moment, and action needs to occur. There's hints about our social interactions and the social fabric that we exist in, largely through the changes in technology and how that's affected us, and senses of isolation. And musically, though, I'd say it's upbeat. It's dancey, it's upbeat, it's rhythmic, and one of the things that we were attracted to is this contrast between music that felt vital and energetic, but where the themes would be thought-provoking, and the songs were almost like Trojan horses. So you're having a great time, but the lyrics will seep in, and there's messages.
It's like partying amidst the apocalypse, kind of.
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
I mean, In Degrees is a song that stood out to me immediately as just like, that's going to go the fuck off live. And that's probably, I would say, the danciest song that you've ever made. I mean, I know there's been a little bit of that.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think, we flirted with a lot of dance music over the years, and initially the band was very much influenced by techno and stuff. But In Degrees is probably the clearest... It's the clearest distillation of wanting just to get on down. And so yeah, it's like the most electronic song we've done. And again, that's one of those songs where I was aware that it's a kind of song that people are going to dance to, and they're going to be in a sweaty room, and you're going to be having physical contact with people. So in the lyrics, I was attracted to this idea that the singer of the song is isolated and can't communicate out, and yet it will be a song that does bring people together.
Layers.
Yeah,
The layers continue.
Yeah. There's a lot of layers.
I read a quote that you called. You said one of the themes of the record is the quote Millennial nightmare. Is that what you feel like we're living in? Is the
Yeah, I mean, I think that in a way, I don't want to get like too heavy about it, but I mean, I think that we're one of the first generations that is in some way fearful for the future, or at least ambivalent about the future. It's not just like gung-ho, awesome progress. You know, it's like and I feel that, you know, I think the change of millennium becoming the 21st century is something that we're still dealing with, you know, in terms of the technological changes. So, yeah, in a way.
All right, fair enough. And then it is split into two parts. Do you see this as, I don't want to get too heady about this, but like you're sort of like Kid A amnesiac situation, or are these, you know, I guess there's been like some, you mentioned that it's two records that are made at the same time, but are they complementing halves, you know?
Yeah, I would say, like, you know,
or are they two entirely different works, you know, or do they have different artwork?
They have different artwork. They share a title though, so you know, the thing that we spent a lot of time doing was making sure that both records are as good as each other. We didn't.
What was that process? Was it painstaking getting in the room and
there was some fighting? Yeah, there was some disagreements, and there was a lot of like Tetris moving the songs around, and but that was a big. You know, we wanted to make sure that it wasn't like, oh, all the bangers are on album 1 and album 2's like the offcuts or something.
Sure.
It's like they're both proper records, and I think they're both equally as good as each other, you know?
Absolutely. Were you referencing other records? Like, did you look at like The Wall or like Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness or anything like that when you were thinking about how you wanted these things to flow? Or...
I thought about Melancholy a bit, because that was a record I grew up with, and in some, you know, and it's one of my some of my favorite songs are on that record. In some ways also, I think realizing that we didn't want to do a straight up double album, partly because there's just, I find them like overwhelming, basically.
Drake disagrees with you.
Yeah, and he's free to. But I think it was important for us to put the records out 6 months apart so that you can become familiar with them, and like the songs are in proportion with each other. Basically, we want to give the songs the best start in life. We want them to make friends with other people.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think that these huge chunks of work are it's too much to digest. And
yeah, and I think that often, like, you know, there'll be great songs in that, but in that work, but as a listener, you're over inundated, and it's like it becomes like it's like you're reading a Dickens novel or something. It's like how many more pages to go through, and like. Yeah. I just didn't. I want it to be pleasurable, and I don't want us to outstay our welcome. I think you're invited into somebody's head for 40 minutes, and that's like enough time to be there. And then if they want to invite you again and again, they can, but not like a 2-hour thing.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like people consume music differently now too.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, even a lot of this is also just hypothetical, because people are going to cut it up and mix and match it and put it on
playlists. And yeah. So another thing I've found interesting between this is I feel like there's this sort of movement out of the UK of bands like yourself, Idols, even the 1975, of bands that are sort of saying like, hey, like we still make this great music and we make the music that we want to make, but at the same time we're really addressing these issues. And in America, I don't know if I've found that same sort of social awareness. And I was curious if you noticed that and what you would attribute that to directly, because it seems like both countries are going through similar things. And
yeah, I'm probably not super plugged in what's going on in American music, I guess, in a way. I'd totally agree with you about the UK. I think that they're, you know, when we first came out, the idea of writing songs that were dealing with bigger themes would have felt like overly earnest, or that they're, you know,
pretentious even.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that there really has been a kind of shift where it's okay to try and grapple with big themes, and you can be sincere, and irony just seems like, you know, trying to have this cool detachment. It's not the time for it now. You know, it's like the cultural environment feels like it's important for artists and musicians to engage, because otherwise it's kind of cowardly in a way. I think that it's important, and it makes whatever you're working on feel more momentous and more important.
Vital.
Yeah, exactly.
Got it. And then so record 2 part 2 is done.
Yeah, it's done. I mean, there's some mixing tweaks. I need to get on later today, but
Ooh, okay.
yeah, but it's basically done. Yeah, it's done. Yeah.
Great. So continuing, how did losing Walter affect the record? Were you already writing this album, or?
No, so we finished touring What Went Down. Like, we had a bit of a break. We were hanging out in London a bit and enjoying just being at home. And then it became clear that he wanted to do something else. He wanted to move to France and like do a bunch of stuff that he felt he'd been putting off for a while. So it was sad, you know. We're a gang and we're really tight with each other. So losing somebody in that to some other path of life is like, it bums you out. But I think it was a catalyst for the record. Like, we had to approach it differently. We couldn't go back to the same studio. We couldn't rely on the five of us making a racket in a room, you know, for songs to emanate. So musically, it propelled us into a different way, and also I think it really feels now like it's the next phase. Like, we're now a 4-piece, and we're going to approach the future like that. So it's like it put a proper full stop on that last era.
Mm-hmm. And this does feel like a new. I mean, you're literally in there with a bunch of analog synths, which was not, you know, really what you'd been doing before. Was that something that you talked about ahead of time, or is that part kind of arose out of this? Well, how are we going to go forward with the band?
Yeah, it wasn't planned, like super planned. I think but it is a result of not being in Oxford and not being in that same room where we had written in the prior way. Like, we've always played around with synths, but I think we just had more of them around, and we were sitting on sofas more. So, like, you know, we weren't there sweating in a little room. We were on the couch. So when you're on the couch, can be more fun to play a synth.
For sure. So now that you're on the couch playing synths, are we going to hear you on like a Calvin Harris song sometime, or?
I don't know. No plans for that.
Fair enough. Speaking of collaborations, though, you were working, I think last January, you put up a picture of you and Tony Allen.
Yes.
Is there anything going on there?
Yeah, we've been making music for a few years. We've got like four tracks. I need to finish a couple of them off. Like, they've got some last bits of vocals to do, and hopefully they'll come out. But that's been great doing that.
Is that just with him, or are you having other people come in and join you guys? Or
it's me and him, and then some other French musicians. So we work in this studio in this suburb outside Paris. So it's been good for me. I think that it's been like creatively nourishing in a way, getting to work outside of Foals and then appreciating what we have in Foals and
right, chemistry.
New idea. Yeah, it's been really good.
Cool. So also a selfish question. We sort of touched on Melancholy, and I'm a huge fan of that band. And you got to work with Flood and Alan Moulder.
Yes, there was a lot of Melancholy chat in that.
Do you have any good stories? And I assume that's why you approached them in the first place.
Yeah, that, and then I'm a big Nine Inch Nails fan as
Fragile.
well. Yeah, and Moulder did the Fragile, and Moulder and Flood did Downward Spiral. So that, you know, that we were like super buzzing when we got to do that. So I don't know, I have to pit through my brain about stories, but we referenced like a bunch of Nine Inch Nails stuff about certain sonic things, and in terms of Melancholy, I know like that with I got some stories about like 1979, and that's 1979, and just about how they went about it and stuff, which I can tell you after the interview because they're quite long stories.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. We'll have a beer. My other question was are you still going to be climbing on shit? We're getting older. I see you. I got a picture on my iPhone of you like climbing up a balcony. I think like Eddie Vedder and everyone in the band was like, he's gonna fall. Like, have you ever fallen? Is that still part of your thing?
Yeah.
You worry about it?
My mum worries about it. My mum sometimes sees things, and then I'll get a text. I'm in the depths of tour, like I'll be somewhere wherever, I'll be like in Eastern Europe, and I'll get a text from my mum being like, you better stop jumping off those balconies, you know, hurt somebody. But
Steve Aoki will tell you about that.
Yeah. I mean, I've hurt myself a couple of times, like nothing too serious, but I bust my feet up pretty badly. I gouged my shin out in Denver, and that was bad. That was bad. I got a big scar from that. It didn't heal well, partly because Jimmy poured vodka on it afterwards and swore that it would be all right. Really, and I should have gone to ER or something. But yeah, it's not like, you know, it's just I get in the mood and the show gets bonkers.
Takes a hold.
Yeah, it just takes off, and then you're just like, how do you get the show to the next level? And often that does involve heights and jumping.
All right. Well, you're in our thoughts and prayers.
Thank you.
We're all thinking about you. Is there anything that we didn't touch on that's really important to you about the new record that you want to get out there and something that maybe our listeners want to know or what we should talk about is exits.
Okay, let's talk about it.
Yeah. Was that sort of the jumping point off of the record? I think I read, or am I making that up?
It was one of the early bits of music that we had, and we were kind of we got really into that groove. Like we would play it for hours and hours on end, just going around just chugging groove, and. So yeah, it was a song that was important, like in terms of the musical direction that we wanted to explore that, and then I had a quite clear visual picture of what I thought the lyrics should be about, which was, you're living in this kind of parallel, surreal world where everything is upside down, topsy turvy, and it's like, it's and anyway, but so. In terms of the video for that, we found a director called Albert Moya, who's an amazing Spanish guy, and I described the visual picture of the song, and then he went and translated it into this amazing, mad piece of work, which everyone can watch. And we were lucky enough to get Krista Thuray, a French actress, and Isaac, who is Bran Stark from Game of Thrones, in it, and it was awesome.
Were you on set for this, or?
Yeah, I was there. Yeah, we were there. Yeah, and
get Game of Thrones spoilers.
So we actually hang out with Isaac quite a bit,
cool.
and I'm actually lucky enough to not have heard any spoilers because I think I don't want to.
Yeah, no, it's going to be incredible, right?
Yeah, but every time we're at the pub and he's had a few pints, he wants to tell us. But
our boss is really upset with you guys because your show here, at least one of them, is on the same night as the premiere of the new season.
Oh yeah. So we'll get him down to the show then. We'll get Isaac down.
Yeah, hell yeah.
He can walk out.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Cool. I think that's it for me.
Awesome.
You
That's
got
good
anything?
for me.
You got
That's
any questions for me?
No. Only off air.
Okay,
Off air.
cool. All right. Thanks, Yannis, so much for coming by.
Thanks a lot.